Hey everybody, how are you doing? Let me turn down the Spotify here. And welcome to the live stream. Back again this week. It was so tempting actually just to be like, oh, I'm going to skip this one this week. But I didn't because I feel like it's so freaking important and I am so glad we did. This week is going to be absolutely crazy. I'm genuinely excited. I'm still waking up. It's early in the morning. I was up crazy late last night packing and everything. So if I'm a little rusty in the voice, just don't worry. Give me a little bit. I got to get some more of this wonderful Go Juice at me. So yeah, want to say hi to everybody. I know a couple people drop in. Dane, I was just saying, Dane stopped by to say hey. Hey Dane, hey Killshot, hey Sync with Martin. Welcome to chat. If you guys are in here, this is an Ask Airsoftology live stream. So the whole point is we have a conversation. So throw your questions in chat or anything you want to talk about. I have a couple topics. We are going to be talking about the Krytac owners meeting this week. That starts this coming weekend. I'll be flying out tomorrow, headed to Japan, get there a couple days early to kind of kick off some things, get prepped, do all that fun stuff. I'll be doing some crazy posts on social as well. So if you guys are not following me, of course, here, obviously you're here, so you're here on YouTube. But if you're not on the IG, you might want to grab it there. I'm going to do a little bit of stuff on IG, like some photo posts, things like that. But I'll be also doing some shorts here. So make sure you have like notifications turned on. I'll be uploading those throughout. I've got a new camera. I'll go grab it in a minute. I'll talk about that. Sequel, no, I have not had a chance to do the Maximum 9 test. This week has been like just absolutely like the last week before a trip like this. I mean, it's like 12 days I think I'm gonna be gone for. It's just always like chaos and like I gotta go shopping for gifts for people and then like get prepped, and I'm bringing like a bunch of patches. I'm actually made some patches. I made 2 sets of patches for the event for different reasons, and because you guys don't have the patch company, right? So like it's a lot going on. So it's like, ugh. If I have some time today, also the weather has been incredibly uncooperative. Like it has been nonstop raining. Today it's, ugh. So if I can get up to the roof, I'll go knock that one out real quick and do those tests and throw them in shorts. I actually have 3 videos I edited. They'll be going on the channel this week over the next couple days. And then throughout the show, as I'm doing a lot of filming, I'm going to be posting some short form content, but this will be some long form content, actually product reviews. I got 3 of them. So going up. So yeah, like I said, lots going on. It's been wild. Hey, Toxic Gamer, welcome to the channel. And so yeah, like I said, this week's going to be talking about the Krytac Owners Meeting Volume 5. This is the first one since things have reopened. The country is back open in Japan. In fact, it just reopened. And then also we'll be talking a little bit on Bill C21. That's a Canadian airsoft bill that has some pretty interesting, very unfortunate ramifications for airsoft, and kind of get an update to everyone of where that is, how it's progressing through Canadian Parliament, and what that means for Canada and also all of us. And I'll even tell you how it impacts me as well. So even though I'm all the way over here in Taiwan. But yeah, so first, let me get some coffee in here. How's everybody doing? Hope you have a good day. I know it's, for most of you, if you're in Europe, it's late. If you're in the US or somewhere in central time zone, like US North, in the Americas, it's like what, 9:30, 8:30, 7:30, 6:30, depending on what time zone you're in. But yes, oh my gosh. Darren's doing good. Sink Wolf's got a question. Good. All of this. Do you have questions for chat? We'll throw it out there for chat, just in case people don't read the chat. Who all played Modern Warfare 2 instead of Airsoft? My pals wanted to play video games and not the real thing. I think it's funny. I used to be a big gamer, right? I used to do a lot of that, and I haven't done it in a long time. I dabbled a little bit with Destiny 2 off and on. I'll get bored and I'll reinstall it and play for a little bit. But I used to play a lot of shooter games, and I've kind of lost interest in it. But Modern Warfare 2 is kind of one of those that brought my interest back. I actually almost pulled the trigger a few days ago. I was like, no, don't buy it yet, because I've got all this stuff. I mean, like travel and everything. So it's like, I'm going to wait. But from what I've seen, like watching little spoilers, clips, shorts, it looks pretty darn good. Like the story looks good. Yeah. But I think so. I mean, I think there's a huge crossover between gaming and airsoft. I mean, there's just so much. Like, I'll go to fields and I'll hear people talk about a certain airsoft product, like airsoft gun or whatever, and they'll call it by the video game name, right? So anyway, it's a huge crossover. I think it's going to be in the things, and guns that are popular in games like Modern Warfare 2. Like as soon as like people really get into the multiplayer and they start playing and they start doing a lot of stuff in there, and there's the ones that bubble up to like that S tier, whatever the S tier, gun to use, or guns, you're going to start seeing those, the airsoft versions of those will probably start selling better in shops. It's normal. Like the same thing happens with Battlefield, same thing happens with all the Modern Warfare, Call of Duty stuff, all that stuff throughout airsoft history. I've seen it over and over and over again. A lot of future shooters lately though, so not much of that. And then a lot of historical stuff. They've been dropping a lot of this, World War One, older time period stuff or future stuff. So it's not really been great for the industry, but I think Modern Warfare 2 will be, especially like I said, once multiplayer hits. That said, yes, Darren, I agree with you. Getting out and going playing is far better. I'm super excited this weekend. I will be out playing. I have new equipment, and I really hope it works. To give you guys and gals a little background, the GoPro I own is a GoPro 4 Black. It's like, 10 years old now? I don't know, 8 or 10? It's old. 8 years? I don't know. It's ancient. Still works great. Still probably the best audio of any GoPro out there. But let's face it, you try to even turn anything above 1080 and it just melts batteries. Like literally just rips through them, and quality's okay, but it's just not stable. There's a million reasons that there's so many better cameras out now. I think anything from like a GoPro 7 is even far better from like an image quality standpoint. With that said, I went a different way. I picked up a 360 cam. I got the Insta360 X3. It did a lot. I mean, I almost got the GoPro Max. I looked at some of the new GoPro, like the 11, and I ended up getting the Insta360 X3. It shoots in 5.7K spherical. So what I'm doing is I've got it actually mounts. I've got it in a cage and it mounts to a GoPro mount. So it's actually going to be like this ridiculous thing on my helmet. And I got like all the protective stuff for it. So hopefully it doesn't get shot out, like all the lens protectors and all that. And the idea is to play and then have this during the game for me to be able to like pan and tilt and do stuff after I play, like to show the action, to zoom in. I can punch in, I can set it for ultra wide. I can zoom in tight. I can make it extra wide. Like it's infinite wide, right? Or I can if my teammates are doing cool stuff behind me, I can spin the camera around and watch behind me after I film. So that's pretty cool. We talked about this a bit. I think like Dayton does some 360 stuff, so I'm hoping it's good. Also, I'll be doing between some games when I'm not out playing, I'm going to use, because it comes with this really awesome long selfie stick that disappears. So not really a selfie stick, it's more like I guess it's maybe a selfie stick. Anyway, I'm going to go out and run around with that and do some like third person video, because I can stand a good, distance behind people and hold this thing out and get third person camera views of people playing and maybe stitch together some action that way. It should be pretty cool, actually. Toxic Gamer looking for upgrade recommendations to my Arcturix M4. Arcturix stuff's pretty darn. Boy, my southern accent just came out. It's still early. It's darn good. If you guys don't know, I'm originally from Tennessee in America, so the southern accent it'll slide in every once in a while. The Arcturix externals are good. I really feel like they make a quality outside. Inside, I'd say it's better than like an E&L and better than like a SEMA, but it's not like up to like your Krytac, VFC, KWA internals. It's not to that point. So I would say in most internals, there's like two ways to approach, at least for me. Out of the gate, I'm always a big barrel and bucking fan. Like I think you're gonna get, for the money you spend, a barrel and a bucking are gonna be by far your best investments. To be honest, buckings a lot of times make a huge difference, a massive difference. So I would say first off, and it's been a little while since I've reviewed Arcturix. I mean, I did a couple reviews about a few years ago on those. They're great. But I would say go ahead, like almost any, I mean, even the high-end stuff, even BFC, unless you're buying like the Asia spec stuff that already comes with the maple leaf bucking barrel, or the ones in Europe, they also come with maple leaf buckings and barrels. But if you're buying even that, I would say, yeah, go ahead and just swap out your bucking barrel for something better, for sure. I mean, absolutely, for sure. Especially like now, it's kind of getting colder, depending on where you are, unless you're watching like in New Zealand or like South Africa, that I would look at a bucking that's a little better for the temperatures, something for colder weather, things like that. But you're going to be way better off doing that as your number one upgrade. Easy mode, right? Second thing on the Turk stuff, I mean, you could do a motor upgrade. I would usually, on motors, I wait till my stock motor wears out unless it's just really bad. So I'll get a motor upgrade at some point. They're typically good between 50,000 and 200,000 shots, essentially. It's kind of what they're good for. They say, but I get a lot more life out of your motor. Like, honestly, if you keep them clean, check the brushes. I mean, I've done way longer than that on motors. You can always do a motor. You'll see a big difference, big rate of fire difference on that. Then you can start getting into like gear sets and compression and all that. But to be honest with you, that's like the last thing I touch. And in most airsoft stuff I do these days, it's very, very rare I'm doing any kind of like hardcore internal upgrade on a single, unless I'm going all in, unless I'm like, this is the one I'm taking with me to every event I go to, and I need it to be like bulletproof, and then I'll go do like a full gut and replace. But which internals affect accuracy and range? Accuracy is going to be most affected by your barrel and bucking, like by far. That is going to be it. Like accuracy is all done from the bucking forward out to the end of the barrel. That's where the accuracy happens. You can get consistency with better air seal, like all the pieces and parts inside, how they seal up better. You can get some more consistency, but that doesn't necessarily mean accuracy. I mean, it can, because if your FPS is nice and stable, and this is a good test, take your, whatever you got, your Arcturix, whatever platform you have, whichever rifle, go to a chrono and see your shot fluctuation. So, do like a half mag, get everything to seal in, and see like shot to shot, does your FPS jump and drop a lot, or does it stay within like a couple? So if you're like, okay, I'm shooting and it's, let's say we're looking at feet per second, right? 400, let's just say it's 400. And your shots are like 398, 398, 399, 401, 400, 400, something like that. You're nice and stable. You got good stability, right? You're well under 1% fluctuation. So with that, like a couple up, couple down, you're okay. Now, if you're like jumping like 10 or 15 up and down, now this applies to AGs. Gas, you will always have a fluctuation because the cooldown effect, it'll always cause the drop over time. That's just, this only applies to like AGs really. This method, if you're consistent, you've got a good air seal most likely, and you're good. Like you've got consistent air, and that's good. If you're inconsistent, you start like seeing like 8 or 10, 12 feet per second, or like 2 or 3 meters per second, like change, like a 3 meter per second or 4 meter per second change. Then what you're going to see is, because that power level changes, the ability for that to push the BB out at the same velocity and get the same distance and have the same effect of the hop up on that BB, the weight you're using, you will have inaccuracies because of that. So yes, especially at range. Yeah, those are kind of the two things I would say. Like, look at consistency. If your FPS is consistent, you're fine. If it's not consistent, you might have an air seal that might be fixed if you make a bucking change. Apex Airworks is going to jump in, said hop up unit matters a lot in cases more than the barrel. That's true. Most stock unit arms flex and the units themselves can move, change the amount of hop being applied. It does depend. Yeah, like if you look at a Krytac, they're pretty darn good. I really like their hop up chambers. VFCs aren't bad. They could use some improvement, but the VFC system is different. The way the air nozzle and the hop up chamber work, there's a much shorter compatibility list of hop up chambers that work with VFC platforms. But you're talking about Arcturix here. If it's an AK, you're gonna have a lot more trouble. That's what I was saying. Like, I was curious. You have like is it just a standard M4 platform Arcturix, or is it one of those like kind of future ones? But yes, Apex makes a solid point. So like for me, like I said, first off, bucking barrel, because it's just cheaper. You can always jump into an Apex. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like Max is like kind of Max the go-to for you as well. I mean, I get a couple pro wins in my higher, like in guns, the ones I use for big events. But I use those specifically for VFCs just because that's like the only thing I can get to actually seal up in there because of the way the air nozzle is designed. But okay, cool. So AK is kind of an area I'm really lost on. I'm glad you've got some good input here about the AK platform. So yeah, AK. So Combat Union is one. Okay, I'll have to look into that. I've not really done any major AK upgrades, and I probably should actually because of this. Yeah, Jay, I agree. You know, we're talking like, since we're talking about internal upgrades specifically, like for sure, you know, like what I would do first, like I said, bucking barrel. Typically, if you're buying, especially I'm talking about Arcturix, typically those, like the bucking gets the short end of the stick essentially, and the barrels can be a little meh. If you're on a tight budget, clean your barrel. That's one of the biggest things too. Just clean your barrel first. That's one of the better things that you'll probably see a little bit of an improvement. Usually out of the factory, these things have some oil and grease and residue and stuff in them. But I usually do the bucking in the barrel first because you're going to see like your biggest change there. 100% getting by an Apex. Once you want to throw a little bit more money behind this thing too, while you're in it, I mean, you're already swapping that stuff too. He has an awesome point. Throw that hop up chamber on. So just like replace the whole unit, take the whole thing out, put a whole new one in. That would be good. Yeah, Impasse Max are super expensive. I know, right? And that's the thing. Yeah, it's the problem. I know, I haven't had a chance to, and I'm gonna get to see this one, Apex. Lilacs has their newest chamber. They have a CNC chamber. They did announce, and I'm gonna get a chance to look at it when I'm in Japan. So I'm curious of how, and for you, I know what you're talking about, like the barrel rotation. So when you put your barrel in the hop-up chamber, it's kind of just like, you know, just barrel go. I don't want to, if I start using hand here, it's going to look bad. So basically it just goes inside, and then you put a clip in there and it locks in place. What he's talking about, if that barrel rotates in the chamber. So you have like, kind of like I'm trying to find an object here I can use. Let me use my phone, right? So you got like this thing going, like the barrel goes in. So if the barrel rotates into the chamber just a little bit, it'll put a side spin on your BB. Either way, whichever way it rotates. So if you get in there and it locks in place and the barrel stays locked perfectly straight where you leave it, and you want this little notch in the bottom of the barrel, right? And you leave it locked in there perfectly straight, and you got your bucking lined up right, and you got your tension arm, everything's pushing down perfectly from the top, and then everything's lined up. So there's like this perfect flat line of how your hop-up bucking engages with your BB. You're going to have that straight in the middle, straight shot. Your BB is going to fly accurate and straight. he's talking about if you have a little twist, a rotation in there, it rotates a little bit on the side. Now you have, I'm going to over exaggerate here, an inaccurate, this angle here where the hop up bucking, like the part that presses down on the BB is now not engaging perfectly flat, and it'll put a little bit of a side spin on it. And you're going to have flyaways, inaccuracies, and it's just going to be a problem. And that's a really good point on that. The barrel rotation is an issue with a lot of hop-ups like out there. So Apex, I'm curious. I know they haven't released to the States yet. I'll give you some feedback on the Lilacs one. I know it's Lilacs, so it's probably not going to be cheap either. It's going to be pricey. Also, from what I understand, they might be working on a VFC spec one, which I'm excited about that because there's far less solutions for a VFC spec. Yeah, I agree. Like, exactly. Apex, you're already thinking, like, by the time you were typing, I know you were already on the same page as me on this one. Like, it's probably going to be max pricing or retro pricing. It's probably max pricing for sure. That's my guess. Cause like you look at Lilac's barrels, you look at their buckings, their buckings are they're still on the premium end. They're on the higher end of the range. They're like 18 US, I think. But their barrels, everything's high end. Everything's super high end. I mean, I get it. I know what they do. I mean, they've got like special equipment. They do it in Japan. They got to make sure it's between earthquakes. They got a seismic. I mean, they like take it to the nth level, but stuff's expensive. I mean, it really is. So if you want to go premium, that's it. There's a lot of great options out there for barrels and buckings, though. And a lot of times it's like a combo thing. And this is where experience techs like Apex can bring a lot of their knowledge, because it's not just, oh, I'm going to buy this best part and I'm going to buy this best part. It's also the intercompatibility of those two pieces. And then, oh, I'm going to add a hop up. Now you have intercompatibility of 3 components. And there's not just knowing, well, I'm just going to buy all the best pieces. It's like having a sports car. I'm going to buy all the best and throw in my car. Well, they may not all work together in the best way. So cumulative, you might be better off getting these 3 pieces instead of those 3 pieces. So that's where I highly recommend, if you want to get like, you're looking for like that top 5%, like squeeze every juice out, definitely check out tech channels for sure. That's unfortunately not, I mean, mine's more broad knowledge channel. I mean, you know that. But there's some fantastic tech channels. Apex is definitely one of them. So, all right, Zach. Let's see. Let's screw back, actually. Let me jump back here. But no, Apex, love the commentary. Thank you for contributing chat, man. By the way, that's how we work here. We're all just one big chill group of people having a good chat. And there's always someone who has input and a perspective that is different and better. And I love that. And then at the end, everybody make your decision, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. Like retros, like I don't even know who makes retro. Like I don't know the person personally. I know it's like I don't like some of this stuff is good. I don't know. Like I wish they would do it. I know. Like if we had somebody, we can give them feedback, right? Because it would probably just be a mold change. Maybe their molds are getting a little old. I mean, if you guys don't know how things work, like you got metal, which is CNC. Like these hop-ups are actually, they're in a CNC machine, so they're pretty darn precise. I mean, they're down to like the fraction of a millimeter. It's crazy, right? So the metal part is all machined out, and the plastic's done molded. So all the plastic pieces, like clips, things like that, they actually open a mold and then they pour the plastic into it. And over time, those molds overheating and cooling, because it's hot plastic or hot material, heating, cooling constantly, repeating itself. And then the process of breaking the mold open and dumping the parts out and putting it back together wears these molds out. And they do have a very definitive lifespan, and they start to lose their spec. So I'm just curious, like I would know, like how long has that mold been around? Can you change the mold? Is there a better solution? So yeah. Let's see. In addition to the RU rotary AK hop-up, Arcturix makes a polymer rotary hop-up unit too. Okay. Yeah, Arcturix is starting to do some aftermarket support. I know the guy that brings them into Hong Kong. I just don't have a direct contact at the factory. See, I'm reading right now. Apex Works is a design problem. Okay. Yeah, I know, like some of the, okay, so Retro Arms has always come in the market. It's pretty wild. Like when you look at a CNC gearbox, we're going to go a little bit down the tech line today. you look at the pricing. I've actually run numbers here in Asia. I'm like, okay, cool. I have access to all these wonderful airsoft companies. I have direct contacts in. I'm like, let me start seeing if I can work in conjunction with, let's say, like a VFC or a Krytac or someone, and like with their help and their engineering input, make a CNC gearbox that fits specifically for their platform as like an Airsoftology branded aftermarket thing. I was like, this would be super cool, right? Like there are people that want this badly. Like they play in cold environments, they're want the tight tolerances. And to have someone who's like, okay, well, here are the drawings, sign a non-disclosure, but you can build off this and, pay me a small license fee or whatever it is. That's cool. But I ran the numbers on pure production. Like just, okay, if I said, all right, I want to go get these made at these tiers, like give me 100, give me 500, give me 1,000. I mean, 1,000's a lot for CNC. You're tying up a machine for a long time. I've run the numbers with a couple different people, like actual cost here in Asia, getting good metal. We're not talking about cheap aluminum, like, because Retro Arms uses good stuff. I mean, so do all the CNC gearbox shell companies. I've looked. I was like, okay, well, maybe Retro Arms is. I thought, okay, well, their price point, maybe they're using like this. They're like, because in China there's like a lower level aluminum. There's like 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 5, 6, 7,000 series. There's like a 5,000, 4,000, or 5,000 that's not really. They use it. It's just kind of like remelt is what it is. It's like melt they use. They usually use it to mix in for casting. I don't want to get too much in the process for you guys with the manufacturing, but it's kind of like, it's so low you can't machine it. It's not used for machining because it's like a low quality aluminum. It's like basically the recycled stuff. It's all mixed together, and they use that to mix with other metals so they can do like a cast aluminum mixed junk. So kind of like a mixing metal. But it's not designed specifically to be machined, but you'll see some Chinese factories use that in machining on parts that need like a CNC, but don't need like super high strength, where it's like a critical part like that. So, but no, Retro Arms, like I even had them like check, like it's 7,000. It's the high end stuff. So I ran the numbers and I couldn't make here in Taiwan, I couldn't make a gearbox within $5 of what they're selling them for, especially you look at like some of the Evic brand ones. So I don't know how they're doing it. That's what I said. I wish I knew who this person was. My guess is they probably own a CNC shop and they're running these in their off hours, like when they have spare time and they have access to scrap, like not scrap metal, but leftover metal that happens to be the right size, or they're able to buy in such bulk because they've got customers and it just happens to be the blanks that they start from. Because there's so much material. When you talk about a gearbox, you have to buy a block of metal that is the size of what you're going to machine, and then you're going to take away all that. Like a gearbox, you're taking away like 80, 90% of the material. It's just getting machined away, gone. And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe they were casting these and then finishing them, and they're not. Like I've had them checked by shops. You're like, no, these things are like from billet. They're actually billet machined. They're not like cast and then, because you can cast something where it's kind of the shape and then you just machine out, and that saves you a lot of money. So the only thing, it's got to be, yeah, if they're posting like Apex, yeah, exactly. If they're buying new machines, there's no way you can, on the back of building CNC gearboxes, especially what they're selling them for, like even what retailers, like you look at Evic did a house brand one. It was like $90. It's like 89 or 90 bucks. It was $100. I'm like, how can you do that unless you're just, you own the machines. This is like a fun side hobby for you. Like, and if you own the machines, then, and you're just trying to keep the machine running, like, just to keep it working because it just fills in your extra hours when you're not running other projects, and you have access to like bulk pricing for aluminum at like a crazy level, and you're the shop, then that's the only way you can do this and be profitable. And I'm sure he's making good money because he has it all. So yeah, it's got to be. And that's it. It might be because and if it's a hobby, I don't know. Like it may not be the first focus. Obviously, the machine shop's going to make their biggest money. And yeah, you're right, Jacob. Billet prices do fluctuate like the stock market. You have to basically, when you see it drop, a lot of the companies here will buy in. They'll like buy in with the shop and say, okay, well, we're going to buy so many tons. when the price is a certain point. Like they have cash ready, they're like, "Pff," and they just go ahead and they buy it. So they know like, all right, we need this amount of stock to make these parts, and it's this the stock comes in this shape and like these long rods or these blocks. They'll go ahead and pre-buy all that. So let me scroll back up, see what I missed. All right. Up that. Yeah, the Jacob, the Insta 360. I'll let you know. We'll see how it works. Fingers crossed. I've done a lot of tests here just around the house and things like that. And so far, pretty darn good. Low light's actually surprisingly good on the camera. But so yeah, Prometheus hop-up, Spitfire saying are better than retro arms and easier to install than the Max. Yeah, the Max I've always heard is complex to install. Like I said, I'll give you updates on the Lilacs one. It could be another premium option, but let's see. Keep going, Apex. Le Fishy says disappointed with the last 3 retro arm gearbox shells. Wow. Maybe it's a QC thing. I don't know. It's interesting. I think the thing about gearbox shells too are like, if you get them, it's not like one of those items you can just like easily return to a shop because like you've obviously put a bunch of stuff into it. It's like you can't keep it new. Let's see. Let me see. Oh, okay. So let's see. Dill Pickles is asking about the Desert Tech, the MDR coming, and it's been pushed back for a few years. You know, it's one of those things like it's over and over. These things get pushed back. Projects get pushed back, especially right now. It's definitely one of those things that's, I don't know. I think the MDR might do good. And for those who don't know, I'll switch over. Let's see if this thing works. Oh my gosh, I got it working. Here we go. We're getting chat. So if you're looking for the MDR, this is what the MDR is. This Desert Tech, the microdynamic rifle. This is the real version, obviously, but they're going to have an airsoft version of it. It's in the works. I don't know. Poly rifles are cool. Everybody's like, not another M4, but this does take M4 mags, which is cool. So it kind of checks all the boxes there. But I found that while really cool, bullpups don't seem to do well on like sales because there's a little bit of a learning curve to do the mag change back here. While they look cool and you'll see them on the field and people are gonna be interested and like that, I think from a functionality standpoint, most people have that muscle memory here. They want easy mode. It's probably going to be premium. Of course, it's going to be licensed, so it's going to be kind of pricey-ish. And like I said, they do well for small batches, but like for mass market, I mean, you have to think too. Again, back to production. Everything about what you see right here is all literally new mold. I mean, the only thing I see in there is like a PMAG. I mean, that's it. Like the PMAG's like the only part that's not new molding. So, I mean, this is very expensive to produce. I mean, very, 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 very expensive to produce. So I can understand why it's been pushed back because the investment in molding and all that, you got like, looks like it's 2, like I'll go back here. I'll show you. I'm going to make it so it shows the cursor. So if you look, I don't know how the quality is on your guys' side after the stream. If you look at the handguard looks like it's polymer. The upper receiver looks like it's metal. It's been powder coated or something like that. And then there's like that cheek weld above the ejection port. That looks like it's polymer. Then the lower frame, once you get below that ejection port, that's like, looks like about a centimeter down. And that's all polymer across the lower frame to the grip, the fire selector, the mag release. It looks like, I'm guessing is that a safety button or is that mag release? Maybe safety up there because the mag release looks like it's back. Yeah, they got the double mag release in the back. So you got the one where you can pull the handle. When you reach back, you can use your finger or you can jam your hand, your thumb up into the back part. I'm doing it because it's always back in your armpit. So you have the two kind of like that. It looks cool. I just think, probably use version 3 gearbox. Should fit in here just fine. But it's just going to be... And the triggers are always... I mean, with the bullpup, I've always found the triggers always... just not there. It's not as responsive because you have the linkage, right? You've got, but if they put a micro switch in it should solve that problem. So no, Marcus, you haven't missed about C21. We're gonna be talking about that in a minute. Don't worry. I got all the screens up for it too. I'd love to get anybody who's in Canada, please. I'd love to hear your input on this too. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. Vint guitars. Or Gutierrez, is it Gutierrez? I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering your name. But Vint, I did a video that I never released, and this is probably 8 years ago. I took all the popular BB brands at that time, like top 10, and I focused just on 0.25 gram BBs. At the time, the 2.8s were about the top end. There were very few people coming out with anything above a 2.8. Like you had to go like really specialty. It's like 8 or even 10 years ago now. And it was still during the transition from the podcast to the YouTube days for me. So it was probably 2011. Anyway, I looked at like brands like Echo One and a bunch of other ones at the time. They were like, oh, what were the other big ones back then? Like Airsoft Elite was a one at the time that was pretty big. There were a handful of brands out there. There's Elite Force had already been on the market at that point. On those, I found the exact same thing you saw, that there's a wild variation. Some brands, they were more spherical, uniform, round. So the way I did the test was I would take the micrometer, right? The little micrometer, and I would measure the dimension, and then I would like randomly rotate the BB, and then I would do it again. I randomly rotate the BB, or the third one, I'd roll it on the table and grab it at a random time. And then however I grabbed it, I put in there for the third measurement. So I kind of added some randomization of how to check the sphere on each one. And I found that some brands were within 0.1, 0.2 on average between their outer dimensions. And some, like you saw, were like point, like 0.01, 0.02. I saw somewhere like 0.07, 0.08, almost up to 1 difference on outside diameter on some of these BBs. They were like more oval than round. They had like more of an oblong, like an egg design. Like, and you couldn't see with your eye, but I mean, I'm over exaggerating too. Also on weight, there were some brands. There was one brand at the time, and I won't say who. Everybody was like, these are the best BBs. They shoot so good. I remember, and I used to use them all the time too. Like, these things are great. I would love them. Like, I don't know why they're so consistent. They fly straighter in the air. So this is what actually made me to start the test. I'm like, why is this brand? Why are they getting it right? Because there's only like 3 BB factories in the world, essentially. I mean, there's a few more than 3, but there are 3 majors. So most of your BBs are coming out of one of those 3, and most of them are coming out of 2 of those 3. And it's just how the company spec them. Like, I want this finish. I want this material. I want, like just polish it this many times, and that's where you get. So everybody's like, oh, these BBs are great. Well, it's coming out of essentially one of 2 or 3 factories. It's just based on the spec of what they're telling the company to do that makes them. So the BBs, the weight, I weighed them. They're 0.25 gram. They were 0.27 something. So these are 2.8s. So 0.25s are actually like 0.24 something. They're not quite, at least in my experience, I was fine. Most of them are a little under. So the one brand, they were bagging them as 2.5s. They were actually 2.8s, and that's why they shot so good. They were these awesome BBs, and these are regular, non-bio. I stuck with non-bio across all brands. I tried to keep it as uniform as possible. And I just said, okay, I'm only looking at 2.5s. So then I started, like, I was curious on this brand. I was like, and this is what made me stop. I was like, well, let me go buy some other bags of this one brand to see if it's sure enough across the board. Their 2s were like a 2.3, because the 2.3 gram BB was still popular then. Their 2s were like a 2.3. Their 2.3s were like a 2.5. They were one weight level up on everything. And that's why they shot so good. But the problem with that is, I'm like, okay, well, fine. You're getting a better value, maybe you're getting a heavier BB for around the same price. The problem is you want to chrono with that BB. You're going to chrono at a lower number than the weight of the BB you're running. And that was the big problem. So yeah, and this is this one brand, and I haven't done it again. It might be worth doing again just to see, like, is that practice still happening out there with some companies? This company that did it, I haven't seen their BBs out in a very long time, like 5, 6, 7 years. So the company's not producing BBs anymore. So it's not like a major shop, or it's one of the big brands you see out today or somebody like that. It was, they were a name in airsoft for sure, especially in the States, but they haven't made BBs in a long time under their brand. So yeah, that was the really interesting thing I found out. So it's really kind of curious seeing your experience using a micrometer on BBs and then sharing with you my story that I ran into event of something very similar. This has been near a decade ago, right? So it might be worth revisiting it. Yeah, and you're right, Apex. If they were 6, they'd jam in your barrel for sure, because barrel tolerances aren't exactly perfect either. Yeah, and if you get good ones, you're going to be fine. I mean, I found any major good quality brand, you're fine. You're totally fine. Let's see. Zach, let's talk about that 23 thing in a second. I'm going to hold on to that question because on that, we're going to hit C21. We'll come back to that, and then we'll talk about the Krytac owners meeting on that. We'll kind of bounce back and forth because I think that's a good tie-in or a roll-in as we get to the KOM as well. SRS trigger's good. Yeah, Jay, but yeah, you're right. It's a Springer, right? Because it has the brake, and that's different. Like that's the AG, the linkage. It's good. I'll tell you, the Krytac P90 is probably the only. It's probably the only bullpup-ish that I found that has a really good trigger. So Nick, yep, here we go. Let's just talk about this. Yep, and Jay, I'm serious. It was 2.8 sold to 2.5s. I don't want to out the company because they're still in business. They just don't make BBs anymore. I'm kind of, and that's why I killed my review. I was like, I didn't want to, I had a talk with this company, and I don't know if they ever fixed it, because that's kind of how I work. I'm like, hey, are you guys aware of this? You always approach somebody like, you did this. I mean, not accused. I was like, hey, are you aware that this is happening? Because I'm not sure how many companies are actually opening a bag of BBs and weighing their BBs on a, jewelry scale, which like I was doing. I was like, I'm weighing 1, I'm weighing 10, to get weights. I'm doing like 10 different BBs and I weigh them individually and I weigh all 10 together. And that was the way I was measuring them, using a jewelry scale. And yeah, it was just amazing to see that this one brand, only that one, was one tier up. So I brought it to their attention. And because of that, they were so popular, people would have asked at the time why I didn't include them in the BB roundup. So, and then I didn't want to say, oh, well, I didn't have access. I didn't want to like do it. So I decided just to table this and see if that company would fix the issue, and that was it. And actually, no, it wasn't Crossman. I'll tell you that. No, it screams Crossman. It was not Crossman. This long predates Crossman's entry into the airsoft world. So, oh, hey, Lilacs. How you doing? Get to see you guys here like tomorrow, like near 24 hours from now. 25 hours from now or something like that. Okay, so C21. This is it. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what Canada's Parliament's 44th session, blah, 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 blah. I'll open it up here so you can read all the stuff. This is the Parliament of Canada. This is their website here. This is their information on Bill C21. I hope it's not too small for type. If you guys are watching on the phones, sorry. You probably can't read this, but I'll help. So the overall broad like feeling or reason behind, and I would say feelings, there's a lot of feelings involved in these laws, I don't want to get too political. Yeah, I'll get political. Feeling over fact, right? And I think a lot of these are feel good, make people feel good because we're taking away all this stuff. So C21 is an act, as they write here, an act to amend certain acts, that's redundant, and to make certain consequential amendments for firearms. So right now it's in the House of Commons. So the way their process works is it'll be in the House of Commons. It'll do some readings and then it's sent off to the specific committee. And it's very similar in US law too. Sent off to a specific committee that will shape and form and review that law. And if they feel like that is good, then they'll have a reporting, meaning that committee will send it back out. They'll read the law a third time. So basically it's like, if it goes through the first two, the House will say, okay, we like this. It's good. We're all going to vote for it. Let's send it to committee, have them dive deeper on it, review it, make sure this committee, that whatever it falls under their jurisdiction, there's a bunch of committees and they're made up of, in this case, members of the House, MPs, as they call it, members of parliament. And then those people will read, review, make adjustments, changes, whatever. They'll meet multiple times on it, and then they'll create a report, kick it back out for a third and final reading where it's voted on. Then it will get kicked over to the other house, which is the Senate, and the Senate will go through 3 readings of that, and then boom, done. Off it becomes a law, and it's off for, I think it's off for, goes to the Prime Minister's desk, and then there's, I think, the Royal, help me out here, because I'm just rusty. I'm American. I'm not Canadian. Then there's like the I guess that the rubber stamp like royal review above that for the law. So where it is now, it's already completed its first and second readings, already down in committee. And if you look here on the chart, kind of like where there's dates, it's been a part of 5 meetings: the October 4th, 18th, 20th, 25th, and 27th. Yes, it's moving along. Now, we don't know where it is. It hasn't come out yet. So anybody who has a little more information on this, and I'm going to open up the law. So this is obviously there. So it was basically sent out in June 21. This is a resurrection of a law last year that ended up dying. Now, what happens is if this doesn't make it out and all the way through the entire process before everything ends for the session, the time period, it just dies. And that's what happened last year, and it went back. What you'll see here is yes and no. So the first vote, it was 170 yes, 150 no. The second reading was 115 yes and 206 no, and it was a sub-amendment. So it was a sub-amendment they killed on that. The second reading of that sub-amendment got the amendment got killed. So they went back. So they tried to make some changes to it, and those didn't happen. So now I don't know what those were. I have to really kind of look. But then the original version of the bill, which is what we're going to read here in a second, was sent off to committee on June 23rd of this year of 2022. And again, it was a 206 to 115. So it was even a less people abstaining. There's more people that obviously were voting, or actually more people voted yes on that one. So it shifted even more. Yeah, so that's where it is. It's been in, let's see, sponsors response speech. So that's June 9th. Okay. Let's read the about. Last year's C21. All right, I'll go over to this. This is the Public Safety Canada's page, and then this is their official post. This is publicsafety.gc.ca. This is, again, from the Canadian government's website. Obviously, you can see it here. All right, a comprehensive strategy to address gun violence and strengthen laws in Canada, Bill C21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments to firearms. So basically, they're taking, this act will go back and look at existing laws and adjust those, amend those, change those to have different wording to affect laws different. All right. So what they want to do here is there's some kind of, I'll hit the highlight points, a national freeze on handguns. And that's actually already happened. I was reading the news, last week or 2 weeks ago, Trudeau, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, did like an executive order, essentially, that kind of froze that, a temporary stay as this goes through. So basically, you're not gonna be able to buy anything new from a handgun. This is real. We're talking about real. Red and yellow flag laws, which is how your firearms license can be revoked. Again, that combating smuggling and importation of, the anything illegal, like basically once the license are revoked from people who legally could have owned these because they've done something or the government just doesn't feel like they should own anymore. Some of these actually do have appeals. Some of them don't. Like the chief firearms officer can just take something away from you for 30 days without any appeal. Like you just pull it away. Judge can do as well in certain cases. And I'll give you guys links below this of how it works. The replica firearm is where this comes into. There's things about like if you bring them in, changing the laws and all this. This is where things get really nasty because it's so freaking vague. Here it is. Prohibit mid-velocity replica air guns. And you can see it right here. And I got a part highlighted in blue. Actually, I'll highlight this whole section. This is what we're looking for here. This is the part that affects airsoft. So hidden down in this firearms bill, this like, hey, we're going to change the laws, make it more strict rules to import these things, to sell them. We're cutting off sales of this. We're doing all this. This part here is what's interesting. So to prohibit mid-velocity replica air guns, government is proposing that to prohibit air guns, now the whole category of air guns, that closely resemble a firearm. What does that mean? Is it mean like, well, obviously if it's like, an M4. Of course, it's M4 if it's a SIG, pistol, whatever, or G19 pistol, Glock, whatever. Of course, it's going to be, it's obvious, like it's licensed, it's like that. But like, at what point does it resemble? I mean, like, what was that? Stars looking, I forget what it's called. I think it's the Stars. It's like a space gun or something like that, or a video game gun. I don't know. So they resemble and they discharge a projectile. Doesn't matter what the projectile is, at a velocity between approximately 366 and 500 feet per second, which is funny because they don't state the mass or the joules. At least here they don't. These air guns could no longer be imported, exported, transferred, or sold. Meaning you can't give them to somebody, you can't sell the ones you have, you can't buy them, you couldn't do it. They say, however, current owners could continue to possess and use their existing air guns. Hey, if you already got them, it's fine, it's no problem, you can keep it, but you can't even give it to somebody else. Mid-velocity air guns that do not closely resemble a real firearm would be unaffected. The government intends to work with stakeholders, meaning people who, like all of us, players, media guys, whatever, including law enforcement and industry, to ensure the practical implementation of this initiative. So the question is, what does that mean? Does it mean that you can put like an orange tip on it and now it doesn't look like a real one because it's that? Is it like the California one where you add the stripes on the stock and the grip? The rainbow gun law? Is it going to be full rainbow? Do they need to be brightly colored? Do they need to be like a RIF in the UK? Because there's like if you're a certain age group, I think in the UK, and help me out anybody here from the UK, I think you can own a RIF, the replica imitation firearm, if it's like brightly colored, and it's a different category than having one that's realistic looking, and you have to have like a UK ARA or whatever it is, license, whatever, to have that as a player. I think this is a very extreme approach. I think if there's going to be something in the middle, I mean, obviously they are trying so hard to push this through, and they are not relenting on this air gun thing at all. So there's going to be something. I'm hoping they can find some mid-ground like what we have in the States. Like, hey, you got to throw an orange tip on these things for importation, at least. They can only be used at fields and whatever. Like, don't put them in your backyard unless you have like out of view of public. Okay, you got a ton of land, you can use it. Like, I think there's some reasonable like things that we all should be doing in airsoft anyway. I'm fine with some reasonable expectations. Like, don't present these in public view. Cool, fair enough. To be only used out of the view of the public on your private land or on designated airsoft fields that are registered or licensed with the government. Hey, that's okay too. I'm fine with that. That's cool. But just to outright nuke these things and immediately be like, okay, you're done. Like, if this thing passes, like overnight, nothing can be sold. Nothing. It's gone. And I do know this. A lot of the distributors and shops are really limiting their inventory of products right now, because if this does pass at any moment, it's probably one of these effective immediately type things. And that's because they're going to want to sign this to get their win, right? Look what we did. We signed this, and they get their win against the gun law. But meanwhile, an entire industry's gone. That overnight, these shops will be stuck with inventory they can't sell. They can't do it. They legally can't do anything with it. They can't even transfer or sell it. They can't even export it. They can't even like, okay, well, let's just send it back to the US, right? Like, cool, we'll send it to the US. They'll buy it. No, you can't even do that. Like, it will wipe out people's ability to do anything. Like, it will destroy these businesses, like absolutely destroy these businesses overnight. YouTubers, I know Dayton's been huge, House Gamers, been huge in fighting this because he's Canadian. It would just kill his industry. It would kill his business. Like, he would be able to still play with what he has, but it would bleed us to death as an industry. It would slowly but surely go away. I mean, fields aren't going to be profitable. Less people, there's nobody buying new stuff. The attrition of players leaving out will just be a big problem. Yeah. Exactly. And so on price. Okay. So in terms of airsoft, they want to ban replica airsoft guns to fill in the loophole that airsoft guns didn't fit into the definition of a replica firearm. Jacob, might that have affected airsoft innovations? That is a possibility. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody at Airsoft Innovation since the Flak 10 fiasco and all that, that whole big meme meltdown on the internet and the pre-order thing and all that. It might have, but the thing is, at this point, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speculate. I mean, who knows? I don't know what's going on, but this law hasn't passed yet, so it maybe wouldn't affect them at this point. You know, if it passed, then yes, I believe it, but it hasn't even passed yet, so maybe not. I don't know. Hopefully it won't affect Daytona too much if it passes. They notably sell parts. They do sell HPA power, could be a big loophole with regular adjustments, but there is something right now where you can't have it under 366. So there's already a law prohibiting replicas under 366. And I think over 500 is considered a proper firearm. So that what they're doing is they're closing that middle gap. So you're saying like the whole having a regular adjustment on J, which your argument there, which makes sense, right? Like, okay, let's turn it down under 366. We're good. No, they have a category there that's already restricted. And that's why if you want to import something into Canada, it needs to be 366 up to 500 feet per second. That's the range. That's the only range your airsoft product can shoot in that range. And that's it. And they're trying to actually close that last range down. So whether or not it's adjustable, it fix it. Surprise, let's see, the surprise are still stocking VC Glocks. That's about all you can find here. Yeah, I think, Sean, they're doing that because those things sell. Like, of course, they sell quick. They could probably offload them pretty fast. And they're easy and they're safe to get for shops to carry. That's about it. I think a lot of these shops aren't willing to carry anything they know they can't move within a month. And they know they could probably move those in a month just because they sell really well. They consistently do. Because the VFC Glock, I would dare say an equal number, if not more, people that don't go out and actively play airsoft like us here, like as a hobby sport and all that, or life for myself, Apex, and quite a few of us here. It's our FOV. It's like kind of our life. That they'll get those because they own a real one. They've always just wanted one. They want to collect it. It just sits on the shelf somewhere. Who knows? I'd dare say probably half those sales. I don't know the numbers, but I would say a massive chunk of those sales are to players that aren't players, to people that aren't players. So basically back to this thing. If you look at all of this, it's like the Firearms Act. If you look at this, I'm looking down here, nuclear, what? I'm looking here, trying to see if I'm missing anything in this. So let's see if we can read the full bill. It's gotta be. This is the overview. So this is the overview from the Canadian government. Link to the Ordering Council, exemptions. You're exempt if you are licensed, but I mean, who's gonna get licensed? So C21 bill, let's save this. We'll open up into a new tab. Let's click here, see what this does. Oh, here we go. Here's the bill. This is what we want. Let's look. Act 2 Amendment Regulation of Firearms, come into force. Weird. They've got a Nuclear Safety and Control Act in here. So I'm scanning. Bear with me here because this is like legal stuff. It's just a pain. Surrender, or access information exemptions. Might just do, oh my God, it's like half. Here we go. So ammunition. Disposal. Okay, that's just firearms though. Because this, at least you can keep it, it looks like. If it's airsoft. This is talking about real stuff here. Transitional provisions. Looking here. Yeah, Apex. I know what you mean. Yeah. If you're a field, you know, I know you have you got super local customer follow base, right? That's you're working in this hyper local area, but yeah, like field, like if they just, and they don't care. It's for the greater good, right? It's the important thing. It's all for the greater. It's feel good. Oh my gosh, we're doing all this good stuff. Let me just try to do this the right way. Was it search? There we go. Let's see. Airsoft? Air guns. Let's see. Air gun? Anything in here? No? Okay. Air? Okay, air. Let's try that. Just French. Picking up. 366. Let's try that. Nothing there? Firearms. I'm trying to look here. Does anybody know which? This is the first reading of C21. I'm trying to find replica. Oh, here we go. It's criminal code. So the replica. Okay, so here it is. The definition: replica firearm criminal code is replaced by the following. So what they're going to do is they're going to change this. A replica firearm means a device that is designed or intended to exactly resemble or resemble with near precision a firearm that is designated or adapted to discharge a shot, bullet, or other projectile at a muzzle velocity exceeding 152.4 meters per second. That is so specific. At a muzzle energy exceeding 5.7 joules. So they do rate the projectile. Okay, I was curious if they did that or not. And that itself is not a firearm, but does not include any such device that is designed or intended to exactly resemble or to resemble. So that is going to be it. So they're going to say, they're going to add, so that's where it is today. They want to amend it by adding this section. It's now prohibited if it's not designed or adapted to discharge a shot exceeding 152. And it's designed or intended to exactly resemble a real one. So that's it. So basically they're just nuking. That's the only thing they're changing is literally they are taking out all of airsoft. And it's this, it's a very convoluted section here. This is the old part up top here. And then this is what they're wanting to add. So basically they're saying here, it's now prohibited, but you got to read through all their trash. It's deemed prohibited if it's not designed to shoot over 152 meters a second. And that's over 500 feet per second, by the way. And then, because they already have a law for that, right? And that's considered a fire replica. It's a firearm, so it's a no. So now they're saying if it's not designed, so it's under that. And then, and it's designed to resemble exactly or resemble with near precision a firearm other than an antique, it says. So basically with that, those are the two rules. Basically nukes, you know, all your airsoft, period. I mean, unless you start doing something that looks like a laser gun, I guess, or something from a movie, you know, like, I don't know. Like, even then, I don't think anybody's going to want to try to test that law, right? Like, you think about it, they're going to, oh, I'm going to make something that looks wild like a space gun, right? And you get this thing and it looks like some cool laser cannon, right? Or like, let's say I was talking about Destiny 2 earlier when we started like game. Maybe you do like a Destiny 2 gun. There's a guy that does these rebuild kits. He makes all these Destiny 2 guns into airsoft. Would that still be argued? Like, well, you know, it looks like one, and it kind of does, but it's from a video game. Like, do you want to really be the person that gets arrested by the government and goes to court? Nobody's going to want to be that person to try to fight this thing, and because they're going to take you to court, they're going to arrest you and throw you in jail. I mean, your life's going to be wrecked. Yeah, it'll be like space gun version high kappas and Halo body kits. That's about true. And yeah, Apex loyal. Yeah. Sorry, loyal. But yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, that's it. Just one little change, one little thing saying basically all they're doing is just shifting that power level. Anything below that power level is now in the same category as the thing above the power level. So now it's just exempt. It's considered illegal. So, and you would pretty much be a firearm. So now you're under firearm. You would end up being, basically arrested for a firearm. Wow. Let's see. Yeah, I can search and seize. Oh my gosh, it's pretty rough stuff. Anyway, so that's it. Let me switch back over to this. Let me look back in chat to see what we got. So, I mean, that's the news. I mean, this is I mean, no clickbait title here. This really would be the end of airsoft in Canada, period. I mean, absolutely period. And it's not, like some laws we've seen in the States where it's like, okay, now everything's brightly colored, or everything's this, or everything's that. But we're still playing, but it's going to suck because, you know, you got to use these crazy colored things. Like this is literally like doomed, and they haven't amended this out. So I don't know. I really, 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 really hope that through lobbying, I know specifically companies I've spoke with that have very deep pockets are working with lobbying industries they all, I mean, let's face it, these are companies that have financial interest in selling into Canada. And these are US based companies. I know all the Canadian companies have all got together, banded, and they're trying very hard. These are US based companies that are also funding lobby efforts. And because they want to be able to continue to sell up into Canada as part of their business. It's a big chunk. So a lot of things import to the States and then import up there. As long as you hit the certain power level, it gives you another market to sell into. And it wasn't necessarily that difficult as long as you follow the rules. But they're trying to say, hey, look, can we implement something that's similar to the US? Or on the far other end, can we implement something that's similar to the UK? To find some common ground of how can we make this happen, right? Because so the industry can keep going, people can keep working, people can keep making money, people's shops and livelihoods aren't destroyed, and our hobby gets to stay alive in that country. Because otherwise, I mean, Canada's going to join the likes of Australia with airsoft. I'm telling you. And I don't even think there's an exemption here for gel blasters. It's just because it's the way they wrote it. It says projectile and under a certain joule rating and FPS, or meters per second in this case, MPS. So it would be anything. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, would that even count Nerf? This kind of sounds like, well, if Nerf doesn't resemble a real gun. So, I guess everybody could just mod Nerf guns, put HPA kits in them, and rock and roll. That would work. Yeah, I think so. I grant. I think this definitely, and I agree with you. Again, I'm just trying to be logical here. Revamping airsoft shouldn't be a part of what C21 is, right? And I've got friends too, don't get me wrong. Like I've got friends that are also going to be greatly affected by C21 on the firearm side. They are competitive shooters. They work for companies. They have real stuff, and it's a nightmare on that end too. Practical shooting, IPSC, like path to Olympics for Canada for shooting. Like they haven't thought this through. Like it's going to pretty much kill Olympic teams, like biathlon in the winter for Winter Olympics. How does that work? How do you train? It's not just, okay, can we have this thing? Sure, you can go get a license, but how can younger players have access to something they can start training on before they can get access to a firearm? You have to start training at a young age to be good for the Olympics. So IPSC, all that stuff, practical shooting, all that. And yeah, Sean, you're going to start doing for your our pal. Yeah, next year, competitive shooting. Competitive shooting will be absolutely destroyed because there won't be a path for someone who's younger to start at a sport to be able to get as good as they need to be competitive at the right athletic age for national championships. Like it'll just kill that for Canada. And again, these are things that these lawmakers don't look at. They have a very myopic view of this thing. We're going to get this done because this is what people want, and it's going to get me votes to get me reelected. Let's just be honest. Like, let's be really honest. This is going to feel good. And then I go for reelection. I can just talk about all this thing. Oh, look what I did. Look what I did. I did this for you, right? Reelect me. And they can go about their corrupt lives. That's it, right? These guys they're doing this thing, stay in power, and they can get their money from wherever. That's how it works. It's life. I'm not, no conspiracy theory here. I'm not like tinfoil hat guy. If you're a politician, you have access to things that the rest of us don't, period. And you get access to privilege, and you get, pretty much set for life. You can be a politician for life. Case in point, look at DeLeon, the guy who put up the airsoft bill in California. He's the one that single-handedly drove the rainbow airsoft bill that ended up being compromising through lobbying the straps, the banding when items are sold in Canada or was sold in California. He was the one, he flat out said, he goes, I'm going to get this passed no matter what. So we found a compromise that we as the industry with what he was trying to do. He's actually in a big he's in a corruption scandal right now. Google him. He was Senator DeLeon at the time. Now he's LA City Councilman. He actually stepped down from the California Senate so he could run for mayor and of LA, and it didn't work. So because he didn't win, now he's like on the LA Council. I think he's buying his time for the next election. He's part of a racism scandal. He himself's Hispanic, but he was a part of a group that was making racist remarks against another minority class. And anyway, you can Google the story. I mean, it's pretty bad stuff too. He didn't specifically say it, but he was there and he didn't stop it. So anyway, just fun story about how these people are, right? So anyway, I really hope the best. I mean, obviously we've got to do our best. The most important thing is you can't attack someone like this. And obviously attack, I mean, like, don't verbally like call people out. And like, politicians don't respond to that. You have to be able to explain logically in the best way possible. Hey, you're going to hurt an industry. Hey, you're going to cause people to lose their jobs. Hey, have you considered the impact of this? This is how kids get into this. And this is how we do it. This doesn't, what have you considered, you know, how many people are you going to put out of business, and what are you going to do to try to help those people? If you're going to put them out of business overnight, are you going to, try to help, do a buyback program then or something? Have you allocated money at least for that, so they're not stuck with inventory that by law they can't sell? Yeah. And Jay, I think so. I mean, if they're dead set and it's like, it's gone or, then I think you're right. The UK lead might be the safe bet. I mean, at least something. And that way it's got levels and restrictions. But again, I don't think it's something that can be legislated as part of this C21 bill. It needs to really be broken out separately. Yeah. And George, and that's the thing. Your story, George makes a point in chat. I just got on the sport with my son. Figured since we can't use real ones, we'll get to go play with the airsoft versions. And this is the point. I go to airsoft fields. I went for my whole life, for well over a decade and a half, or almost two now. And it's one of the few hobby/sports, whatever, that a father and a son can go out, or father and daughter, I see all the time, go out and play. I mean, you see mothers and sons go play, literally, and go do it together. And have something that's common interest. It's not easy to have that. I mean, like, think of like how few sports you like. You can't go play baseball competitively or in a sport environment with, the age gap like that. There's not many sports you can do with a massive age gap like that, father and son. And it's something you're missing out. And people don't realize it teaches teamwork, it teaches safety, it teaches all these things. So I don't know. That said, I'm going to do my best to try to get some awareness on this as best I possibly can. I'm not in Canada, unfortunately. I can't like vote. I can't like call MP, member of parliament, and try to get something pushed along. But for those of you there, definitely should do that. Be respectful. The more pressure they can get, the more awareness they're going to realize that they're going to have some bad press. Remember, these people, like, they need to be reelected, and anything that gives them the feeling that it's going to put a tarnish on their record or potentially risk that could be detrimental to them, and it may make them at least aware of it and maybe negotiate it and kind of explain like, hey, you're going to cost jobs. You're going to, can we find an alternative? Always ask the question, can we find an alternative? Can we negotiate? Can we do something? There's got to be a solution that will prevent these people from losing their jobs for doing this. So just make sure you're doing it respectively if you're going to reach out to your MP. Don't be like, oh, you guys are, don't be threatening. It's actually the opposite effect of what it was. So, but yeah, it's exercise too. Yeah. I mean, how many things can you like get out of the couch, get off the, go out and play. Okay. So now the biggest thing at the end here, this, I am so excited about this, and keep talking in chat, by the way. I'm watching chat as well. This is this weekend, 11/5, Saturday, November 5th. It's the 5th owners meeting. Did they plan that? The 5th on the 5th? I don't know. It's happening in Chiba, Japan at Tsubage Airsoft Park. And I am incredibly excited to be a part of this. So freaking cool. It is the Krytac owners meeting, 5th one. I've been to 2 or two or three now. I can't. God, I forget. So many. I didn't go to the first one. I think I went to all the rest of them. It is so good. It's an event that's put on by Lilacs. They're the distributor for Krytac in Japan, and it is for only owners of Krytacs. And it's a full day of airsoft, and it's like some competitions, and I think I saw they have a dance. It's a shoot and dance competition. Did I read that right? This run, shoot, dance, 1 million yen. 1 million yen. What is that? 1 million yen. That's like what, 7,000 US, 6,000, 7,000 US, give or take, 6,500. That's a chunk of money. I don't know. I may have to dance for 6,000. But it's a group of five players. So it's a high score challenge results. They did a driving one year. The last one, Scott from Landmore Airsoft in Scotland took it with his team. Scott and Mitch, and who else? I forget who's in that little group. Scott drove like a madman, like wild man. The Krytac owners training is so cool. It's like got this, like they have like a tent city area set up, like not really city, but like all the vendors, everybody exhibiting. They do build competitions, like where all the tuning shops in Japan will have a Krytac and they have to tune it, and they have accuracy tests, and then they are judge people's Krytac builds, and they're awarded awards for the best Krytac build. And then there's some crazy cool ones, like absolutely wild creative builds that people have done, like paint jobs, Cerakote, and all that. It is a super cool event. I will be there. I will be doing some, the internet there, if I recall, is ugh. So live from the site is going to be a challenge, unless they've added more cell towers out there. If they have, great. If not, internet was a little spotty. But I will be doing my best. I'll be posting immediately after. It's not just myself there. Of course, you've got the Krytac guys. You've got Mark. Mark is the marketing guy. Mark West. You guys know Mark. Mark used to be from a different retailer. Now is Mark of Lilacs. He'll be there. You've got the Krytac guys there. You got the Evic guys there. Like Matt's going to be there. He'll be doing stuff from it. So make sure you follow their channel. Follow the Krytac, the Lilacs channel. Follow Krytac's channel. The Krytac guys are going to be there, including Uncle Alan. Alan's the coolest dude. He's a product manager, and he's kind of the guy that keeps all these projects going of all their new stuff. You've got of course myself. You've got let's see. Medasian, I think is his name. You got him there. You've got Kevin from, God, my brain is jealous. Scott. You've Scott from his Airsoft. You got Kevin. What's Kevin's channel? Oh my gosh. What is his channel? I'm so terrible. Sorry, Kevin. Brother, I forget off the top of my head. Hang on. I have to look. I'll say, let me Google. Oh my gosh. US Airsoft. Somebody help me out. Let's see. Where is it? Yes, Random Guy Kevin. Thank you, FOV. Golly, I don't know why. I was like, why can't I figure out? Because it's not airsoft related. My brain, forgive me. Like I said, this is still the first cup of coffee and it's ice cold. Random Guy Kev's there. Sorry, Kev. Sumasen. I'll say it in Japanese. It's only Japanese I know hardly. It is going to be so much fun. Absolutely a blast. Stu is going to be there from representing Airsoft Action. So Stu Baka. Who else? Golly, there's so many people going to be there. And of course, there's a bunch of Japanese influencers going to be there. It is going to be so much fun. And Scott from Land Warrior. He doesn't really do YouTube that much. So, but he'll be there too. He handles Krytac distribution for the UK. So, but yeah, that is going to be so much fun. I'm going to have a ton of content. I will be doing gameplay. I talked about earlier. I got that new camera. I'm going to be doing testing out. So it works like a regular GoPro, but stabilizes and it balances. And then of course, try some of that cool 360 stuff. Try some third person video from that. Try to get all that up. Show you guys what's going on there. We're going to get to go visit airsoft shops around the country. We're going to be doing stuff in Tokyo. We're going to do stuff in Yokohama. Yokohama. And then also back in Osaka. And we'll get a chance to go visit. We're doing a ton of filming at Lilacs' office. So that's really cool. They're going to have a bunch of things and new products and stuff we can show you, including like we talked about Apex earlier, that hop-up chamber. I'll get a chance to look at that for you. I'll get some really good close-ups for you. And I'm maybe hopeful. I don't know if they're still in chat. They hopped in and left. I saw the Lilacs guys here that maybe they'll have that hop-up chamber in something I can use on the battlefield out there and play some airsoft with. So, geez, man, what do you guys? I'm reading chat. Everybody's talking about transplants and stuff. Good Lord. Vent. Man, you guys are awesome. Jeez. Got Grant, Vent. Jeez, man, you guys are getting like, you got your wheels. Grant and Vent are both comparing like all the parts they've had swapped. Jeez, man. Good for you guys. Jeez, man. I'm glad. Yeah, keep going, man. Like, wow, chat is wild. But yeah, look at this. Vent says 71. He goes out every weekend and he plays near Camp Pendleton with the Navy and the Marines, like that. And let me tell you, man, those guys play hard. They do. I played against some of the Marines and stuff like that, even in like non currently active Marines. And man, they're freaking. If you get a pack of those guys together, it'll keep you on your toes. That's for darn sure. So yeah, it's fantastic exercise. Like I know people like I know Stu is like we talked about. Like his only exercise essentially is playing airsoft, and he does competitive shooting too. So, but yeah, man, that's really cool. So anyway, if you want me to get anything specific, if there's anything that you want to see, put it below the chat in here, or just message me, hit me on socials. My content will be going up here on YouTube. I'll be trying to do a lot of posts, so they should show up in your feed. Oh, you should with Archer. Hey, man. Hey, these days, I'm not going to, like, that could be a real thing. I'll be posting here on the post, so it should show up, and I'll be doing as many shorts as I possibly can. And as soon as I have access to internet, I'll be trying to upload those just as we go throughout the day. So doing a lot of short form, because, like, we're playing and doing a ton of stuff on the day of the event, so shorts are probably the best way to get you content that day. But throughout the rest of the weekend, I'll be doing as much editing as possible and throwing stuff up in short form content. And then on the back end, doing long form stuff. So you'll be able to see like more of that. I know we've got some stuff planned. I might be able to squeeze in a live stream. Stay tuned. I will be announcing if we have live stream on the socials, either here or if you guys follow me on IG, it's just Airsoftology on Instagram. Both places I'll be posting. If we do a live stream, it'll be with the whole pack of everybody. It's gonna be so awesome if we can pull that off. Oh, we got also No Cat from New Zealand's coming too. So if we got all that, we'll try to do a round table. I'll try to grab as many people as I can and pass the mic around. We can do a massive ask the group kind of thing, and we can make it focused about upgrades and tech. If you want to, Apex, I'd love to have you back on here, and all that. Also, if you guys have a channel, I'm want to maybe start doing more guests on here. So if you guys have channels and you got whatever, let me know, and we can start getting people on, and having we can put more focused shows. Like we have Apex on, and we can do, a show about tech, because obviously he's absolutely way ahead of me when it comes to tech, so to have a different viewpoint, someone who has far better expertise in a different subsection of airsoft is great. I want to do that more. So and we got Vint on talking about heart transplants, so Vint's trolling hard in the chat there. But yeah, love to ask. So Apex saying, love to ask some stuff directly to OEMs. We need a mediator between me and them, though, depending. Yeah. It's funny. You'll see, I have a lot of exposure here to that, like the factories and how they work. And it's usually a balance between adjusting cost to hit a certain number and then quality. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, man, you'd be surprised if you ever get to come out here to Taiwan. You could probably, for sure, get some factory visits and get to talk to the product managers, get to talk to the people who are actually on running the factory. You can talk to the engineers. You need to translate. Most engineers I found, they focus, at least in my experience here, it's rare to find an engineer, rarer, that is fluent in English to the point where you have a really good conversation, because they've spent their whole life focusing on engineering and not linguistic skills. So you definitely want somebody that to help translate. But most shops, most of the salespeople are fluent in English, so you can always do that. Yeah, man. And I'm telling you, Apex, what you're doing is great work. Absolutely. We need as many channels as we can get that provide tech information, to give the specifics for people who want to do upgrades. There has to be somebody supporting an upgrade community, and more than one. Like, we need that. We need more people like this channel that just helps information and growing the hobby, and people to do reviews. Like, I kind of do like the broad. I don't go full detail. I mean, I give nice broad product showcase outline videos, let people make buying decisions. But then, like, once you kind of like look at mine and go, okay, is this something I'm interested in? Then you can dive deeper down the rabbit hole and go to the tech channels and see the people that have like really beat these things up and you know, gone deeper, you know, because like where I kind of live is that. So, oh, you got an APS F1 AG. Ugh. APS is a little. I'll bite my tongue on the APS. I'll let Apex answer that one, LaFish, because you did answer to them. Yeah, I'm reading what Apex says. Like, you know, right now we're seeing AGs that are coming in stock with decent, you know, ETUs, better buckings. You know, I think that's good. I mean, I think the important thing is it might change the price, but they let somebody get in with a very, very, very skirmishable AEG or a product, or whether it be GBB, AEG, pistol, whatever, and get out and be competitive with it and not be limited. I mean, you don't want to be like behind. You don't want to like. I used to think people show up with those Walmart guns, like the Black Ops Walmart M4, and they would always have, you know, they would have competitive issues. But if you get there's a lot of good options for competitive level. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, it has to be some kind of inside joke. I was like, I had one of those, and God, I really hope the EVA guys aren't watching. They're gonna kill me. I was like, I'm gonna pass on this review, guys. I'm just gonna let this one slide on. Yeah, back then with the APS F1s, they really they cut some corners on that. Let's just say, let's just say that I'll go that far, because I mean, you got to call it out when it is. Like, I'm always very politically correct. I'm really chill, but at some point you got to be like, yeah, you know, some companies make great stuff. Companies need a lot of help, and then there's some companies that, I mean, the F1 has a very unique look externally, like very unique. If I recall, the one biggest complaint I had the F1 from an external standpoint, not internals, was the key mod they used on they machined the rail. The rail is super thick aluminum, and they machined it just with the shape of the key mod, but the depth wasn't to key mod spec at all. It was like crazy thick. It's like 4 millimeter, like 5 millimeter. I don't know. I think it was maybe 5 millimeter thick. The extrusion they did on the rail, and they didn't undercut anything for the key mod. And you had to like get extra screws. You had to use, like, if you want to put a key mod segment on, it was like so far out of spec. It was so thick. You couldn't even put a regular rail segment. You had to like get a longer screw for it to bite the back part to go on. I don't know. Maybe you have one, you know what I'm talking about, the fish, if you ended up with one, or if it's just a joke. That was like one of the first things I noticed outside. I was like, how do you even get key mod to work in this thing? Anyway. But yeah, so that's it for the show. We're about 11 o'clock, hour and a half in. I'd love to hear more. After this is done, the comments are going to be open under the video, so you can add it there. I'll break some of these out for clips, especially like C21 stuff. I want to try to do my best to get more information out on C21, just so people are aware of it and they can call their MP if they're in Canada. So, you know, that's one thing. You went from a Specna Edge, ditched the Specna internals, waiting for the internals to be assembled into a white APS F1 skeleton receiver. Oh, nice. Yeah, because the receiver set's pretty cool. I like like I said, the F1 looks super cool. The rail, like I said, the key mod rail is out of spec, the key mod portion, but the actual body looked super awesome. I know a lot of guys were getting them and like gutting them and putting HPA systems in them and rock and roll. If you didn't have to add rail segments, it was good. So, yeah. So C21, I'd love to hear more about that. Tons of stuff coming from the Krytac owners meeting. So absolutely, if you haven't mashed the notification bell, this is the time you should do that. If you guys, I'm sure you're all subbed. Don't worry about that. But hit the notification bell, because you're going to get to see those stuff. That's going to be the one time. Also, more importantly, when I go live, that's going to give you that. I don't spam. I don't like put 20 videos up a day or anything like that. So you're not going to have your notifications blown up. But to have that bell switched on so you get the live notification in case we do like some great streams, I enjoy having you all here. It's so much fun. Like really, I really look forward. Like I was like, do I skip this week? I'm like, no, I'm not skipping this week. I enjoy this. I look forward to this. Next week, like I said, the stream will be on an odd day because Wednesday, the time this would be on that I would normally film it on a Thursday morning. We're on a tour that day, like early. We have to be out, so we won't be able to do it on Thursday. But I will be doing a stream during that week at some point. It's probably going to be on the front end of the week. So just stay tuned on here. I will post as soon as I have some time, and just make sure you have the bell turned on, the notification, so you at least know when it's coming, and give a heads up. I will do my best on that one. And thank you all for being here. It's been so much fun. I will be bringing you the best content from Japan I possibly can. If you have any questions for Lilacs, let me know. If you have questions for Krytac team, let me know. I'm going to see them all there. I can maybe ask them on a pre-recorded Q&A. I know we're going to be doing a group chat together with them, so I can maybe bring it up during that. Any questions, I would love to hear them, and I can pass them along. Apex, Sean, the Fish. I mean, God, the list goes long. Jay, Grant. I'm going to try to get everybody. Vint, Sam, FOV. I'm just trying to go back through chat. George, Sean, Darwin's Arbiter. I didn't even see you sneak in here. Nick, Starseed. Man, I didn't see Starseed. Man, what's up? Dill Pickles. All you guys, like everybody. I'm trying to go back, make sure. Marcus. Make sure. Hold on. Did I forget anybody? Did I miss? Who did I miss? I think I missed Splitfire. Got you, Zach. Don't forget you. I already got Jay. Toxic Gamer, Darren, Sinkwolf, and Call Sign Kill Shot. Dane, all of you, thank you for joining me. I'm sure there was so much more hiding that just didn't jump in the comments. I tried to get everybody here in the comment section. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. I just did a quick scan. Thank you all for coming and joining me and being part of the live stream. I will see you next week. Stay tuned. Notification bell, like I said, I know I'm beating that to death, but just make sure so you don't miss out next week. After next week, we're back on the normal schedule. It will be the normal time, posted Wednesday nights if you're on the West. If you're in the East, it's Thursday morning, but Wednesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time in the United States, 6:30 on the West Coast, whatever your time zone may be, Pacific or Eastern Pacific there. And then if you're in the UK, I think it's like GMT 1:30 a.m. And here in Asia, it's 9:30 a.m. So anyway, that'll be back. It's in 2 weeks, but next week we're a little off, and then we're back on the normal schedule going forward. So I will see you all on the next live show. I'll have some reviews popping up on the channel, so just kind of stay tuned on those. And then, of course, all the shorts and cool stuff from Japan. Compliments of Lilacs and Krytac. And until the next week's show, go out, have some fun, play some Airsoft. But no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.